Very good evening, friends. I hope you're all safe as well as healthy. Well, in this particular month, I have been discussing some important paras related to inventory valuation, that is Index 2. In the last video itself, I was discussing about the concept of NRV. Now, today in this particular video, we're going to talk in terms of the impact of Ind AS 10, that is events after the reporting period. Does it have any impact on the calculation of NRV? What is the timing factor when the net realizable value is computed? And if there is a change in terms of anything available post the balance sheet date, is it to be incorporated in the NRV calculations or not? So there is a para number which is given in Index 2, which we're going to dig in this particular video and find out that what is the role of Index 10 in terms of NRV computation. Let's find this out in detail. खुशखबरी और खुशखबरी। भाई पिछले वीडियो के अंदर मैंने आपको बताया था कि आप अनअकैडमी की सभी सब्सक्रिप्शंस के अंदर 20% डिस्काउंट अवेल कर सकते हैं और उसकी लास्ट डेट आपकी थी 16 फरवरी। फिलहाल ये डेट आपकी एक्सटेंड हो गई है और आप ये ऑफर अवेल कर सकते हैं 19 फरवरी यानी कि सैटरडे तक। ये ऑफर आपको रात के 12 बजे तक मिलेगी। आप अनअकैडमी में कोई भी सब्सक्रिप्शन परचेज करते हैं, इसके लिए आप एक कोड इस्तेमाल करें CAKB10, लगाएंगे 10 लेकिन मिलेगा आपको 20, यानी कि आप इसके अंदर 20% डिस्काउंट अवेल कर पाएंगे फॉर ऑल दी सब्सक्रिप्शंस, वेदर इट इज फाउंडेशन, वेदर इट इज CA इंटरमीडिएट और इट इज CA फाइनल ग्रुप 1, ग्रुप 2 या कॉम्बो ऑफर्स। तो अपनी सब्सक्रिप्शन आप इस स्टेज पर प्लान कर सकते हैं। डिस्क्रिप्शन बॉक्स के अंदर आपको लिंक्स मिलेंगे जिससे आप अपनी सब्सक्रिप्शन ले सकते हैं और कोड लगाइएगा CAKB10 और मिलेगा 20। तो आइए मिलकर लेट्स क्रैक इट। पैरा नंबर 30 tells us that estimates of NRV is based on the most reliable evidence available at the time the estimate is made. It doesn't say that this estimate is done on the balance sheet date. Well, of course, when we measure the inventory as on the balance sheet date, naturally it implies that NRV is computed as on the balance sheet date. But it very clearly says that the calculation of the NRV is based on the most reliable evidence available at the time the estimate is done. It says these estimates take into account considerations, fluctuations of prices or cost directly to events occurring after the end of the period, to the extent that such events confirm conditions existing at the end of the period. Let's take an example. Let's say, for example, a company measured an item of inventory. Let's say the cost of the inventory is 10 lakhs and the NRV is, let's say, 12 lakhs. So considering the measurement principle, we said that let's consider the inventory at cost, which is 10 lakh rupees, because cost or NRV, whichever is less. Now post balance sheet date, the item of inventory is sold. And when the item of inventory is sold, it is sold below cost. Let's say it is sold at 7 lakh rupee. So the question now arises that do I revisit and change the inventory valuation on the balance sheet date? Now we start digging into that what is the reason of this inventory being sold below cost. So we find out that there is a damage in the inventory. Now if there is a damage in the inventory, it's a manufacturing defect, for example. So if there is a manufacturing defect, that means this defect was present even on the balance sheet date. Because when the inventory was manufactured, the defect was already present. So the reason of the sale of the inventory below cost is attributed because it was a manufacturing defect. Now, if you apply the parameters in terms of Index 10 also, you would say that is there a condition which is present on the balance sheet date? And yes, there is a condition. The defect was present on the balance sheet date, and it doesn't make a difference even if the entity was not aware about the condition being present on the balance sheet date. What is important for Index 10 is that there must be a condition which is present on the balance sheet date. The knowledge of the condition on the part of the entity is not relevant. So we would say yes, since it's a manufacturing defect, the condition was present, and once the inventory is sold post balance sheet date, the sale of the inventory provides an evidence of the fact that the condition was present. So which means I'll have to go back and make changes in the inventory valuation in the balance sheet. So instead of measuring the inventory at 10 lakh rupees, we would incorporate the events post balance sheet date and measure the inventory at 7 lakhs. So that's the reason we say that when estimates of the NRV is done, we need to consider the estimates based on the most reliable evidence. So we can say that the estimate is done as on the balance sheet date, but also incorporating the impacts of Ind AS 10. Isn't that pretty interesting indeed? You can actually connect Ind AS 10 to a lot of standards indeed. Well, I think that's all in this particular video. Something more coming on the NRV in terms of Ind AS 2 in another video. Thank you for watching. Take care and goodbye.